And 60 seconds.
Best recorders, high speed. Check all batteries.
Minus 50. Armed.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5,
Your go
4,
for APU shutdown on time.
2, 1, liftoff.
Go at throttle up.
Just go at throttle up.
Still on its way to orbit after a successful ascent up through main engine cutoff.
Houston, 20 seconds to LOS TDRS.
Contact, nice to be in orbit.
This is Escape Pod, part of the Outbreak Podcasting Network. Visit our website at outbreakpodcast.com. And now here's your hosts, Tony Brown and David Anthony.
Welcome to this episode of Escape Pod. You know who I am. Who's this guy? Oh, I messed him up, didn't I? I'm David Anthony.
And I'm water drinking Tony Brown.
Tony Brown. And we have a guest with us today. It is
David Wolfe.
David Wolfe.
That's
Welcome,
right.
David.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Good, man. Good. We're really glad you're here.
Hey, I am pumped about being here. This place, I'm just like in awe of the ultimate man cave, folks. I don't know if you ever seen this place or not, but I'm telling you what, this place is the bomb. I'm hanging out here every week now, whether they like it or not. So
big screen TV, watching
yeah,
games.
that's right. My wife probably won't like that either, but you know, oh well.
We cover everything here, so
Yeah.
that's for sure. And we love.
you cover wives, okay?
Yeah, there you go. We like entertainment. We like wrestling. We like
Love it.
music.
All
we
of that.
like
Yep, same here.
movies.
But then when it becomes October, it's all about
Woo!
the creepy shit.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Scary
Yeah.
stuff. Scary stuff. So David Wolfe has a website called hauntsofowensboro.com
Right.
where we're going to go over to the back here in a second, but I want to get everybody up front and know what's going on. You do tours of basically of Owensboro and all the paranormal history and scary stuff that we know over the course of the time that Owensboro's been around, correct?
Yeah, you know, I think this is our centennial year, our bicentennial, 1817. You know, Owensboro was founded.
Mm-hmm.
Very old town then.
Yeah.
So with old town, old stories.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and they're creepy.
Yeah.
So-
and it was one of the last
Public
places hanging.
Yeah, last public hanging. Yeah, Owensboro don't like that, but guess what? They don't pay my bills, so
It's history.
I know people are going to say, "Ooh, there's a jab," but I tell that story and take them to the exact spot on my tour and give them a couple of ghost stories about that creepy area.
I was
Very
really going to question you about that.
Well, you need to,
That's-
yeah.
We will. We will.
You know, that's the thing. People think it's a black mark. I don't. I always tell people that, you know, the last public hanging, it's a huge historical event that took place, and they say, well, you shouldn't talk about that or you shouldn't mention it. Well, that would be like not mentioning Gettysburg because, you know, there was thousands of lives lost there.
Right.
That was a horrific event in itself.
Right.
So, you know, if you took that off the map, you know, that's I see it the same way. It's history.
We learn from history.
We learn from history, yeah.
Exactly. That's
and
the way
what
you
happened
gotta
after
do it.
that was it. There was no more.
Yep.
So it should be told then.
Until we get Tony Brown hung.
Oh,
But I'm just
yeah, yeah.
saying, hey,
I've seen some guys with pitchforks and torches out your window here, so it was kind of creepy.
just a swinging.
Yeah,
Oh,
Wow.
Tony's like, what? All right,
Thanks,
David.
man.
Let's start back at the beginning. Let's
Okay.
start. So obviously, as a youngster, where did you get your fascination
Oh,
or
man.
interest in?
How long
this
do we have?
whole- we got all the time you need.
Oh, good. Okay. One thing, you know, I work for the school systems, and the students always say the same question. What was your first paranormal experience, or what got you into this?
Mm-hmm.
That goes back to where I was about 6 or 7 years old. I lived in a very old home that was about, at the time, it was about 125 years old, post Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like the movies, creepy old house up on a hill, woods all around. You know, it's picture perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah, it is. Lightning bolts, you know, cats, you know, so, and I don't know where that came from. But one night, my room was a big hallway. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if we were in there, I know you people that's listening to this can't see this, but I'll try to describe it the best I can. My room is a big, long hallway, open hallway.
Mm-hmm.
To the right was Mom's room. To the back was a spare bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And my room, there was a bathroom, the only bathroom in the house. One night I was sleeping, and we had a lot of activities in the house prior to this event, some things that were happening, especially after my mom and dad got a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
That's when creepy stuff happened. And it's funny, when Mom got remarried again, everything stopped. You know, nothing that hurt me, or hurt her, because she had experiences too, which I'll go into. So anyhow, back to the room. I'm laying there at night. And as I'm laying there, all covered up, I happen to turn over to my left on the edge of bed, and I look right there beside my bed is this tall, shadowy figure. The best way I can describe him, folks, is he looked like a cross between a monk or the angel of death. Except for it didn't chant. It didn't go, oh, because if it did that, that'd be cool. Even as a kid, I'd be like, rock on, man. But it had the hood, and you could not see his face. His face went back for like miles.
Wow.
And it had this glowing silhouette around it, but you can definitely tell it had like a long robe, and it stood there. Of course, I screamed for Mom, thinking somebody broke in or something,
Right.
and she walked right through it. I'm like, it's right there. Can you not see it? And she couldn't see it.
Right.
And so it did this 4 nights in a row. And that's pretty traumatizing for a 6-year-old.
Right.
Four nights in a row, it does this. The fourth night, I got pretty brave, and I looked at it, and I said, you know what? I said, you can stand here all you want, but I'm going to go and sleep in the bathroom because I had a nightlight, and see you later. And so I grabbed my pillow, grabbed a blanket, walked into the bathroom, and I just happened to peek back out, and it was gone. Now, that's not the creepy part. Okay, that's creepy in itself. This is the creepy part. We fast forward up to I'm about 16 years of age. And I tell my dad this story. Now, my dad is ex-military, rough and tough and hard to bluff, okay, from the Vietnam era.
Yeah.
And I'm telling him the story, and he gets spooked. I mean, he looks at me and kind of, tilts his head. And I said, what's wrong? And he says, I'm going to tell you something. How old were you? And I said, I was 6. He said, I saw the same thing, same age, in a different house.
Wow.
Now, that's the creepy part about it.
Yeah.
And possibly his dad might have. It's kind of like a cursed ghost. Doesn't do anything to you, but that was my first experience of seeing something and going, what the heck is it? And we had other events. My bed would like shake and vibrate at night by itself to the point it was almost like a massage, and I was like, to the left, you're missing out. But it would like shake at night, and I would holler for my mom. And as soon as she walked in, man, it would stop, and then she'd go back to her bed, and it would start shaking, trembling. Mom said I did that scream for that over and over night in that same bedroom. And this is when that happened too, in the same bedroom. My mom was sleeping in that bedroom because she would in the wintertime, shut off the doors to conserve heat.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of what you did back then.
Yeah.
And my room was the staircase with a banister. And all of a sudden she said, I must have not been in the house, but she was alone. And she hears the footsteps come up the steps, these steps, da-doom, 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 da-doom. They walk around the banister. Da-doom, da-doom, da-doom. They walk over to her, and if those are listening at home, put your hand in front of your face right now. You boys too. And she said that's the way it felt. She said it literally went over to like somebody's hand in front of her face and just stood there for about less than a minute, and then it went away. And of course, she called my grandma, who's from Eastern Kentucky, and she said, "Get out of that house; it's haunted." So haunted, folks. So that's my first experience.
Right.
And then, like I said, when Mom remarried, a year later, after I was 6, everything stopped. It's really weird. It's like it was there, and we heard it called her voice out, her name one time. Other little strange things would happen, but as soon as it's kind of like, hey, I'm here. I'm not going to hurt you, but I want to let you know I'm here until somebody else comes along. Somebody else come along, boom. As far as the shadowy figure, I don't know. What creepy thing is, I have a daughter that's 7 now and a son that's, he's older now. He's 14, but he never saw anything.
Right.
But my daughter has a hard time sleeping. And I think if she saw something, she'd probably tell me, but I don't know. She never sleeps good ever from day one. And I'm not saying she did see something or something happened to her, because I don't want people to hear this and go up to her and ask her,
Right.
But as time progressed and I moved to Owensboro, long story short on this, I met Mr. Joe Ford. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys remember Joe Ford.
Oh, yeah, he's very familiar with Joe Ford.
Yeah, Joe was a mentor to me, literally. I first saw him at Burns Middle School, 6th grade. I watched him scare the bejesus out of us up on a stage in the little theater room, and he brought his snakes and his tarantula that would wave at you. And you guys are like remembering this.
Yes, I remember well.
He told these ghost stories like it was like the day before Halloween, and I didn't sleep a week that night. But I remember pointing up at him and going, "I want to do that one day."
Yeah.
And from then on, we were friends, and I'd talk to him, and we would hang out a little bit, and he would tell me about the last public hanging and other stories and ghost stories, and 1 or 2 on story are told from him on my tours, so you get to hear 1 or 2 Joe's stories.
Very cool.
So he was a mentor. That's another reason why I did this. Owensboro didn't have anything like this going on. We fast forward up to about 11 years ago. I went to Savannah, Georgia. I had in back in my mind something I wanted to do in Owensboro. I went to Savannah, Georgia. We were staying at Hilton Head, but I told my wife, and she said the same thing. Let's go to Savannah. And I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
you know.
it's close.
And so, well, not only that, but I kind of just being devious. But I said, yeah, let's do that. In back of my mind, I'm going, yeah, let's take many tours as we can, many ghost tours as we can, and we did that. And literally, that's where I studied. I watched how they did it, and then the light bulb went off in my head, and I said, we can use this in Owensboro, and we can have something different and something fun, you know, and to bring to Owensboro and do this with history and ghost.
Yeah.
Boom.
Right.
So, and there you go. You mix it in a pot, all those things I just said to you, and you have the haunts of Owensboro.
Yeah, and it's unique tour. It's very unique. It's nothing else like that around here. There's
No.
and it's a tradition pretty much because you've been doing it for years.
11 years.
Yeah, and you've even
this month.
You've even
Oh, wow.
incorporated
Awesome.
you've even incorporated other aspects to it. Like you have the some of your tours involve the horse and cart.
Yeah, we have a carriage ride now. That just started last year. This is our second year doing it, or going on our second year. And yeah, that's at 9:30. 8 o'clock is, and both tours are not very long. I mean, they're long enough that you won't get bored. You know, they're an hour and a half each. And so 8 o'clock is the walking tour. 9:30 is the carriage ride. Both go to different places. You know, there's a couple places that are the same, but majority of it's different.
Right.
You know, every year I try to change something up and add new stories or take off old stories. And you know, this year I'm trying to get into an establishment. That's the one thing I try to work on every year is to get into a different place.
Right.
Because let's be honest, what sells right now? Name of one haunted place that you get to go into that you know are millionaires. I bet you can name it. See, you're in Kentucky.
Right here in Kentucky, in Louisville.
Say it. Go ahead and say it.
The Waverly Hills.
There you go. Boom.
Oh, yeah,
Fist
okay.
pump. Waverly Hills. And I always thought, you know, if I had something like that, I could be a millionaire. Because those places make money.
Yeah.
So that's why I think every year, okay, if I can just get into a place. And it's not all about money. I'm not trying to make it sound like that. I'm looking more out for you guys that like this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because when I go into these places, when we went on those tours in Savannah, I loved it when we got to go into a place because you get to do this. You get to touch. You get to feel.
Right.
You get to experience than just me telling a story.
Right. Yeah.
Because some people want the thrill seekers, the ones that ride the roller coasters. They want to go in a place and get scared and get chased out of there by a ghost or something. That doesn't happen all the time, obviously.
Right.
I always tell people on my tour, ghosts are not like pets. You can't go, come here. You know, they're not going to. If they want to come to you, they are. If they're not, they're not. You know.
And I know exactly what you're talking about too, because his brother Dusty
Yeah.
has done Waverly several
he's
times
gone
now,
See, I've never
several
have.
times,
and
yeah.
like spent the night at least once.
I think he's done one overnight. Yeah. And
That's the number one question on my tour. Believe it or not, you think it'd be about the ghost. Number one question on my tour is, have you ever been to Waverly Hill, Mr. Wolf? Never have. This time of year especially, I don't have the time.
Right.
You know?
Right. Of course.
I'm wanting to, fingers crossed.
But it might be worth it for you to do that just to kind of get that
I know.
extra, you know.
Yeah, and it's
dimension.
also good. It's a good study for me too to learn something new and different. You know, that's the way I look into it.
Yeah,
Isn't that
exactly.
odd? I go there to work.
No.
So,
And Savannah was a good spot for that because I
Gosh.
think it may be one of the most haunted places
that
in
New
America.
Orleans is probably the two most
Yeah.
haunted cities there. Never been to New Orleans either.
That'd be cool.
You know, and the other question is, what's the most? And we'll get to this now, obviously. What's the most haunted spot on your tour or in Owensboro?
Right.
And I would have to say, and I plug it all the time, and that's the Theater Workshop of Owensboro. That place is creeped out, man. And I know I used to have the keys to the place for almost 10 years. And I've been in there at midnight when I forgot equipment or something like that. And I've been in
Yeah.
there times where I didn't feel anything at all. Like I said, they're not like pets. And I've walked in there when I forgot equipment or something, and it felt like, okay, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
You know, and I've had people go on the tour, and I'll bring up some pictures and show you guys here in a minute, actually. I've been on the tour where people have actually caught full body apparitions. What? On a tour, actually? Yeah.
So was there a lot of bad things that happened in that building
Yeah.
previously?
The legend is that there was a. You don't want to give too many stories away.
No,
but,
no,
Right,
exactly.
But I'm going to give you this one because it kind of sets that up.
Okay.
The story is this, and folks that are listening, if you got kids, I'm just going to say this can get a little graphic. So, their story is one of the very oldest ghost stories about the place being haunted was there was a priest who had that place as his parish, his church, Episcopal priest. Episcopal priests are allowed to get married. So he had a young daughter that was about the age of 14, 15 years of age. And this daughter came up to the dad one particular night and said, "Dad, I'm really in love with this guy. I'm going to marry him. He is the one." Well, the dad knew this guy. This guy was a bad egg, bad apple, whatever you want to call him. He was just bad. and said, no, I don't want this guy in my house, which they live next door. I don't want this guy in my church. I forbid you to court him. Courting is an old word back then. Today we call it dating.
Yeah.
Back then, dating was writing dates down. So, yeah. So, they got to a pretty heated argument. To finally she relents and says, fine. Okay, this is the part where you need to cover your ears, kids, which makes them want to listen to it even more. How do I say this in a nice way? A few weeks later, the daughter comes up to the dad and says, Dad, I'm pregnant. The dad gets so engulfed in rage, he calls her every name you should not call a young girl. Things happen. And he says, I want you out of my house. I want you out of my church. You're dead to me. And curses her out and everything like that. And so the jerk that she was with bails on her. She's alone in the world. She loses her mind. She goes to those very front doors that you see at the theater, goes up to the bell tower, and hangs herself.
Oh, wow.
When the priest came in the next morning, he looked up, saw what had happened. It goes in the theater of his mind of all the words he shouldn't have said. And he goes back in today, what is the green room, into the basement, and takes his life.
Wow.
Since this day, this place has been severely, severely haunted.
Okay.
Now, this is just a legend. I've never heard it, but Joe told me this story. One of the oldest ghost stories about the place being haunted. When she hung herself, they removed the bell. The bell is no longer up there. It still isn't. From that time on, up until I know a couple Octobers ago, the oldest story is some people still claim to hear the bell ring.
Oh, wow.
But there's many more stories than just that, folks. That's just a little bitty icing on the cake.
We don't want you to give
And
away
on the tour, you will hear them all.
There's many more. There was a psychic came in there and reported of 5 different spirits or spirits, because there's one bunch of spirits called we call them the choir ghost, and you can hear that on my website, hauntsofowensboro.com. Cheap plug.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, and you can press it. You can actually go a website that actually has actual documented EVPs, stands for electric voice phenomena. We went in there and investigated one time about 12 years ago, and you have a little tape recorder, okay? You guys have those and stuff. You know what I'm talking about. They used to call them dictaphones. That's a horrible word. We're turning 13 now, so we're laughing. But they're little, tape recorders, and we were recording. Actually got one that said my name. It said, David. And I said, what? And it said, get out. And I said, I'm already gone. As I baby a little bit. Don't tell anybody, though. Okay. So, but we caught numerous. I mean, like 8 to 10 grade A EVPs.
Wow.
And one was a choir. It said, something, something, thine house. Something, something, which comes out of the Bible, out of Matthew, I think. I don't have the exact verse.
Right. Yeah.
I need to have that with me. I know. But it's actual verse in the Bible, and it's a whole choir. There was... people that have actually heard the choir in there out loud when there's nobody in there. I've talked to people that actually had to quit working on stage because they heard it.
Wow.
There's so many great stories. Buy the book and you'll get them all. Go on the tour.
Exactly.
If you say, I don't want the book, I want firsthand experience, then go on the tour, because I can guarantee it. Every time we go there, my my EMF detectors, which stands for electromagnetic field, I got the K2 meters. That's the guy that Zach uses from Ghost Adventures,
right.
and TAPS and all those other ones. That's the granddaddy of them all.
Yep.
I can guarantee you every time on the tour, it'll blink.
Wow.
Always.
Now, on your website is where you can hear some of these EVPs that you've captured, is that right?
Yeah, you can go on there and click under Evidence, and then you'll click under Theater Workshop, and you'll notice there's a bunch of pictures that
it broke down to like a lot of the different places, right?
There's like the courthouse, the Montgomery House on there, Gillum Hopkins House, I think's on there. We've kind of got a new addition that we added last year, and that is the Camel Club. OMG.
Oh, cool.
One of the probably the most haunted restaurant / houses in Owensboro, too. Matt Weaver, who's a great friend of mine, he's the head director there and the head chef. And shout out there to you, Matt.
Oh, yeah. Great place to eat, by the way.
It is. The Camel Club is perfect. And I don't think exactly now you have to be a member. I think you can just go in there and eat now, which is great.
Still might have to call for reservations. I think they're pretty busy.
And go there and ask Matt about the ghost. He'll be glad to tell you about it. I mean, literally, one of the stories I love telling, and it's in my book too. Matt was coming around the corner, and they were closed up. Nobody was in there, and he's coming around the where the stairs are, and he goes past the front parlor there. If you look at the Camel Club, you'll notice there's like 3 big windows, like a bay windows in the front. And as he goes by, he looks in there, and there's a lady sitting there looking out the window towards Frederica. Okay? And beautiful dress, handsomely lady, you know. And he thought, that's strange, everybody's gone. So he goes back to the back and asks a couple of the workers, you know, waitresses. He says, okay, who left the customer in front? They said, Matt, there's nobody here. He says, yeah, there's a lady up front there. And they all three go out there to look in the parlor, and she's gone.
Wow.
And the legend is when that a lady possibly killed herself in that room when it was it was one time a old folks home, retirement home. And it's really cool. On the third floor, you can actually still see the apartment numbers. Yeah, it is really cool. That is, I know it's little geeky things to me, but it's just kind of like you can touch and feel that and go, wow, you know. But there's many stories to that place that's just phenomenal. We've actually investigated with a group on Amazon Prime. Yeah,
Wow,
I was actually
cool.
on that Amazon Prime. Yeah, so
That's cool.
Yeah.
Now, on your website, too, we talked about your book. Let's go into a little more detail about your book, like what your book covers and, you know, what the price is and
Sure.
how they can order that.
You can get the book on hauntsofowensboro.com, pennantpublishing.com. I think you can go to Amazon. I know you can go to Amazon, actually. I think Books A Million and Barnes & Nobles, I think, have it, too. It covers everything from... And not just on my tour. There's other places that it covers that are not on my tour. But it has places like Haunted Row, which has 3 different houses that are haunted. It has the Theater Workshop. It has the Camel Club. It has Bebop's, the Bistro, the famous Bistro.
Yeah.
The Creme and the Crown. On 2nd Street is a hotbed for some paranormal activity. One of my favorite stories is in the book about the Bluegrass Museum, where it's at now, not the new one that they're building,
Right.
but where they're at right now. That got bad that they actually called the cops out on it. And Camel Club, that happened too, twice.
Wow.
They called the cops. Yeah.
So they need to get your book and read more about that.
Yeah, because there's so many stories that are not told on the tour. You know, if you want more than that's just on there, there's a lot more stories.
And it's a very fair price too. Was it like, how much is it now?
I think it's
$15 according to the website.
Yeah, there you go. $15, folks. You can't beat that with a stick.
It's Owensboro history too.
Well,
And
that's
good
another
scary
thing.
Stories.
Yeah, there's a lot of history to it, but a lot of ghosts. I know a lot of people go, "Oh, we don't want all the history. We want the ghosts." Well, you'll get that. Trust me on this. You know.
Yeah.
So there's. I'm trying to think if there's any other, like the Executive Inn. We talk about that place. Believe it or not, the Executive Inn was a very haunted location. There was 14. The convention center
is
isn't it?
now,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
There was 14 recorded deaths inside the Executive Inn
Yeah.
from '77 up until a few years ago when they tore it down.
Wow.
Now that's a short time period, and that's just the ones recorded.
Right.
And I always tell people on the tour, because that's one of our last stops, you know, you had on the tour when I did research, countless of research, by the way, for this book, you had everything from, on the Executive Inn, you had suicides, you had murder, an actual murder, a gruesome murder took place there. 2 tool and die makers got in a fight, and one went up to his room, and I'm kind of shortening his story, and the other one followed him, he didn't know it, but the one following him had a shotgun. And when he went to knock on his door, the guy peeped through the hole and opened the door and said, "What do you want?" And boom.
Oh, wow.
Blew him away.
Wow.
There's accidental deaths that happened there, and then there's just the natural death that old people just died in a room,
Right.
which leads us to the most haunted room in the theater. In the Executive Inn. That was 2243. In room 2243, there was an elderly lady who had diabetes, and she unfortunately died in the room. She ran out of insulin.
Oh, wow.
After her death, no one liked to stay in room 2243. Many of those that would stay in room 2243 said the sheets would be tugged off their bed in the middle of the night, or they would hear a woman walking back and forth and faintly saying, "Help, help, help." And of course, they would say to the front desk, "We want help out of this room."
Yeah.
You know, there's a great story about a bellhop who had quite a scare one night, and I think there's a story. There's a story also recently discovered. I think a little boy actually drowned in the pool there, and he haunted that area too.
Wow.
So there's just a lot of great history and story. And think of all the famous people that came in and out of the Executive Inn too.
Yes.
You know, maybe they haunted.
Yeah.
You know,
From Buddy Rich to,
Right?
oh my gosh, so many others.
And that was kind of where the Executive Inn was and where the convention center is now. Isn't that about where Rainy?
Yeah, it is. Good job.
About that area.
Yeah. You take the convention center and you go right next door to the Hampton Inn, and pretty much right there where there's a stop sign on St. Elizabeth and Veterans Boulevard, and that takes you right into like the Mitch McConnell Park. It's right there exactly beside Hampton Inn. That's where the last public hanging took place, which would have been the Expo Center back then.
Right.
You know.
Wow.
So that just kind of made
So,
it just
and that's not the
immediately
only death
started
that happened there. I mean, there's been 4 other hangings that took place besides Rainey's
Right.
in that area. That's because the old jail was right there.
Right.
So they wouldn't walk very far, you know, to do their, unfortunately, deed.
Yeah, I guess those do get looked over. I mean, just because
Yeah.
Rainey's was the last one in America.
Yeah,
so
but there's like 3 or
nobody
4
ever
other ones.
talked, about
Yeah.
all the previous ones.
Yeah,
that
there's
happened
previous
there.
ones there. A lot of rich history. There at the executive inn, that was known as the Red Light District before it was up, obviously. And it was called Mulberry Street. And that was where you, unfortunately, I'll just say it, that's where you can get your prostitution at.
Wow.
You know, so you can think of bad things probably happened there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
From what I hear, like back in the 20s and 30s, Owensboro was like a crazy place to be.
Yeah.
You know what
Like
I've read?
Violence and
Yeah,
prostitution.
It was kind of like a little Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Because there was tavern after tavern across the streets from each other and, you know, lit up and...
Yeah, well, something I learned about from looking at your website was that what is the current Owensboro Museum used to be the Anderson's department store
Yeah,
when
that's
I
got great
was growing
stories.
up. But before that, when it first started, it was a theater.
Yeah, it was the Temple Theater, yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, when I did the research, I found the same thing out too.
That's wild.
You know, and I think Joe told me that it was a theater one time. So obviously researching, boom, there it is.
Yeah.
And it burned down at one time.
Wow.
Yeah, in which there's a creepy story with that because there's a little boy that's spotted throughout the still today throughout the
And that's
the
evidence I think is on
museum.
your website as well too. I believe I saw that.
Yeah,
on
there's a
there.
picture of a little boy. Yeah, and
Oh, that makes it even creepier that it's like the children's museum now.
yeah, that's where the picture's. I know I hate to say it. Sorry, museum. That's where the picture is taken. They know too. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
You'll float too, Tony.
Because you'll
they
just,
all float. Yeah.
he'll just be thinking it's another kid running around if you're upstairs with a play area.
Well, I'm going to
maybe
tell you
a
now.
ghost.
This one's not in my book. I wish it was. I forgot about it, but because there's so many stories I had to get in there, and so every now and then you forget one. There was a so this one I can tell.
A bonus. Say it's a bonus.
That's
everybody.
right. There was a gentleman that I knew. He went on my tour a couple times. Very straight-laced guy. You know, not even a believer in the ghost. Went out up there in the Palladium with his daughter, and he had a tape recorder. He heard about my tour, so he's tape recording for some reason on his phone. You know, and he's tape recording on his phone, and he says like, "Is Kelsey? Are you having fun playing?" And this demonic voice comes back and says, "Kelsey's playing." Ha 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 ha.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm not kidding you, man. And it sounds creepy. I wish I had a hold of it, but he's got it. And yeah. But the
Yeah,
one
so
lady
you
that
can
got a picture of the
donate
boy
that.
did send it to me.
That's cool.
Yeah. My dream would be I'd love to have. I just don't know if Owensboro would let me or would they back me up. But I'd love to have a paranormal museum right here. You know, there's nothing like that in the Midwest
yeah.
here, and that's what I would call it, Midwest Paranormal Museum.
That would be great.
Yeah, I
That'd be cool.
posted it on Facebook once, and it got great hits and a lot of, talks about it. But the rent is what's so high
Right.
downtown because that's where I'd put it right down there.
Right.
You know.
Where all the activity seems to be.
Yeah, not only that, but and the place I was thinking of was where the Bluegrass Museum is today because of a couple of events that took place there.
Oh, yeah.
And it's already a museum, so if they got out, it'd be just perfect to place things in there.
Right.
You know,
Right.
of course, it costs some money because you have to get artifacts. And,
Sure does.
You know.
Yeah.
But if you like this idea, folks, send me some money and we'll get it done.
There you go. Or even
Hint,
even
wink,
seems
wink.
like maybe they could
Donate.
something like a wing in the actual Owensboro Museum, like a
haunted-
section
oh, there you go.
designated to it,
Yeah.
to where maybe
Don't give them that idea. They'll take my idea.
No. But my point is, they're going to need somebody to go to that's going to know everything.
Yeah, yeah,
So they're
exactly.
going to come to you.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep, maybe you can start a.
GoFundMe.
There you go.
I know. Well, somebody told me one of my constant clients, and he's hired me to do lectures, and he goes on the tour all the time. And he said, "Man, if you need help, I'll put forth we'll do a fundraiser for it." I said, "Man, I don't know how many people come out for this or not." And he said, "You'd be surprised."
It'd be amazing.
You know,
Yeah,
he said, "Could you
might.
bring some artifacts?" And I said, "Yeah, I've got some haunted artifacts." Believe it or not, folks.
Because
Cool.
that idea is so good. You should start a GoFundMe just to get the initial money going, and then so many people are going to come to that your rent at that
Thank
point
you.
is going to be nothing. Because
Really?
you got to think paranormal stuff, ghost stories, anything spooky.
Right.
People are going to travel, and that could be a destination
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah.
Because you got people coming from St. Louis, Indianapolis.
You know, I've had people
Louisville.
people ask that question. What's the farthest you've had people just to come to Owensboro go on the tour? And that's Michigan and Texas. That's all the way from Michigan. They drove all the way down here just to because they were on vacation.
Yeah.
And they said we wanted to come. We heard about the tour. And
Right.
boom, I put them on it.
And you were talking about we were talking earlier before we started about like Waverly and places like that. But I mean, they started somewhere. You know what I
That's
mean?
true.
And
That's
then they
true.
got a reputation, and I mean, and you got all the these. There's a lot of shows that cover paranormal activity, the Ghost Adventures and things like that
Yeah.
that are still going strong
Yeah.
today. And
there
those,
is there is a couple locations. One of them is on my tour. I'd love to get. It's the Gillum Hopkins house. It's empty. I know the owner. It's just getting a hold of him is hard to do.
Yeah.
But I'd love to turn it into something like that because it's just a house.
Yeah.
But it's got some great stories, and it would make every room would be really cool because people once they got the idea of it, it was really cool to see them write in what should be in it. One put you should put murder memorabilia in there, and I said, oh, I'd love to. That'd be really cool. I know that sounds demented, and I'm
No.
not worshiping serial killers.
Of
I'm not
course
doing
not.
that.
There's a big following.
there's a
for that
huge
stuff, though.
following.
I'm one of those guys.
Yeah, isn't it
I'm
weird?
so fascinated by serial killers.
It's weird. Well, it's not just you. I mean, just the I don't call me an average person because what I do, but I mean, just that. Yeah, the straight laced people. I've seen them have libraries of serial killer books. Which I'm like, okay, but yeah. And then other rooms, somebody said that's what's coming around now is actually funeral pics now are coming back around. Where the old ones though from Victorian area, which is weird. I never thought that would be a thing, but they're like, yeah, that's a big thing now.
Yep.
And freak show pictures, of those that had oddities.
Yep.
Which I've been claimed to be basically. If you ever go on my tour, I'm a cross between a Southern Baptist preacher and a Barker. Literally, that's what it is. I was probably a Barker back in my day, or a Baptist preacher. So, but which is good.
Yep.
But and it is like that. I can honestly now say that after many years, because I'll even go up to places and like, here we have this place here, like showing it off,
Yeah.
And I always say these words before like if we were leaving the Montgomery house, I would say, and folks, I give you the Montgomery house.
Nice.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everybody's like, which is really cool. So yeah, I would love to put something like that. Would it sell? I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know. That's the creepy part about it is I don't know if if Owensboro would turn. I've had some of them wrote on there and said, nah, man, you'll never make any money with that. But then that makes me just go, that's
Yep.
makes
See,
me want
that's
to
the
just
thing.
do it then.
It may not be a place for locals, but I really think it could be a travel destination.
Yeah, it could definitely
because
be
people
something.
that are into that will travel for
Yeah.
that.
Well, there's nothing like it in Louisville. There's nothing like it in Nashville. There's not.
Right.
There's only a couple paranormal museums. And I talked to a couple of them. They'll be honest. They said they don't make much money. At all, but they're all the way in the East Coast.
Right.
You have your Miss Warren's place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Deborah Warren, is that it? Did I
Yeah.
mispronounce her name or
From the
Amityville Horror?
I
she did,
believe that was
and
the
The Conjuring.
Warrens,
and-
yeah,
right.
Warren.
The
We'll just keep
Warrens,
it.
yeah.
The Warrens. They've got their museum. That's another. That's a big one.
Yep.
Zach has his out in Las Vegas.
Yep.
So you have East Coast, West Coast. But
Florida,
nothing
we
in the
went-
middle.
We went to the Museum of Death in Florida. In
Yeah, the
St.
death museums are
Augustine.
big now,
You
too.
know, that was I left Florida almost close to 20 years ago.
Oh, cool.
And back then there was still probably 50 people, and we were just crammed.
We
in
were
this
too when
place.
I went to Gatlinburg this summer and went to the crime museum. Oh, MG. It was everything from pirates, which I love, from pirate lore to John Wayne Gacy. His actual clown suit was there.
Nice.
wow.
And his paintings were there. A couple of his paintings. Dahmer's stuff was there. Manson's stuff was there. They had one huge room dedicated to all them. Then you had, you had Wyatt Earp stuff was there, which was
Right.
really cool. How they got all this stuff, I don't know.
Right.
Wild Bill Hickok's one of his guns, I think, was there.
Yeah.
Billy Kid, and then you had, then you had your cop stuff. They had rooms that had some, police. But then you had your mob stuff, which was just like, I'm a big history geek anyhow. So everything I loved was in there. It was just like
Yeah.
from from the beginning of United States America to now, everything was like that crime. It was almost like the Death Museum because there was actual death stuff in there too.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And people that like that stuff,
And it was
they're
packed.
not just fans of it; they're like fanatics.
Yeah, and it was
about
like you
that
said,
stuff.
52. It was packed. We were just like, ugh. But even some of the fake stuff, like Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum, that was
Oh,
there.
yeah.
It was packed, and a lot of that's hokey.
Yeah.
But it was people love that.
love
You know,
that
come and
stuff.
see that. You can even hear them over the internet. Come and see the Vampire Kid, the actual wink wink real Vampire Kid. You know. Okay.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
But yeah, that's a lot of cool stuff.
It's if I'll just put this out, folks. I'm on David Wolfe II on Facebook. If you're interested in something like this and you want a museum here, PM me. And if you have a haunted item, text me. I'll grab it. I'll take it off your hand.
Oh yeah.
And maybe we'll get something started.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Be great.
Yeah, so it's hauntsofowensboro.com, and that is the best way to get a hold of you. That's the way I reached out to you. You've got a phone number there where people can text you.
Yeah.
You have an actual email address where they can
I got a
email
funny
you.
story on the texting part.
Uh,
You can imagine when I first started out in this business, first year, you got not just text, but people calling you about 2 o'clock in the morning. And one person called me and said, she said, "Honey, do you hunt those ghosts?" And I said, "Do I what?" She said, "Do you hunt those ghosts?" Hunt? Oh yeah, a little bit. I'm more of a collector of stories, but yeah, I've ghost hunted before. And she says, "Well, I got a blender that's haunted."
Oh shit.
What? 2 o'clock in the morning, called me, woke me up. I've got a blend. Now, I don't know. You get woke up 2 or 3 in the morning, you're not very happy, you know, but I was nice. I said, "Well, tell me about it, honey." And she says, "Well, my blender's haunted. It just runs by itself." I said, "Okay, I'm going to give you advice. Can you come over right now?" I said, "No." And she said, I'll need for you to do something." I said, "Here, I'll give you advice. Unplug it and throw it out your back door." She did that, and she said it worked. That's a true story.
You're a genius.
Yeah, I know. I charged her $50 for that call, but no.
Bargain.
But I've had them call me and gave me some hokey. Like one of them called and said from a local restaurant that said that their shake machine was haunted.
Oh.
And I just said, "Come on, just buy a new shake machine." And they did, and lo and behold, golly, the ghost went away.
Cured. Imagine that.
I know. I am a cure-all for ghosts.
Are good.
Yeah, Ghostbusters got nothing on me. So
Who are you going to call?
Yeah,
David
David
Wolfe.
Wolfe.
Exactly.
so-
Or text, actually.
Yeah,
Text. Not call. Not 2 o'clock in the morning.
yeah, but I've had some weird calls that first year, buddy. They were.
That's funny.
You know, I've ghost hunted at some of the places after that second year, and some were interesting and some were legit.
Right. Yeah.
So
all right. So, say somebody wants to do one of your tours.
sure,
Let's talk them through the process. They go to your
Okay.
website at hauntsofowensboro.com.
Yeah.
And then what do? I think there's a tab or something that you can click on.
Yeah, you can click on there, and there's a you can pick your date. There's a calendar,
Mm-hmm.
or if you wanted to say, I don't want to pay online. I don't trust it, because I got those people still today. That's great. It's a trusted site. Trust me, it is. It's through the pay part is through another entity
Service.
So, but I've had people call me and say, "We want to pay you directly." I don't take cash anymore. So, due to people that said they would be there and then they don't show up.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, I've had that happen where somebody said they had 15 people. Well, that's a good payday. And I'd show and nobody shows.
Wow.
Yeah. And that got old. And that happened over and over and over. To finally, I just said, okay, they're going to have to pay up front, you know.
Right, sure,
And
sure.
I hate that. I hate that so much. Because there's
Well, it's
great
just- it's
people
your
out
time,
there.
too.
Yeah. And that only happened a few times, but it a few bad eggs ruin the whole batch. So,
Right.
So you can either call me too, and I can take your information, everything over the phone, and pay that way. So there's a couple different ways you do it. But regardless, it's always good to call me though, or text me, even if you do it over online, because things happen. You never know if an automobile accident, heaven forbid, or family death or something. So it's
Right.
always good to go ahead and call
Possession.
me. Yeah, or Diablo. No, something like that'll happen.
That's funny.
Yeah, if you see me foaming and head twirling, then yeah,
You get the extended tour.
you get the very extended. Yeah, we'll be out all day. You'll be like,
Your
"It's great."
soul is mine forever.
Yeah, it's going on this tour. They'll be like, "This is a great tour. We love this."
Exactly.
Wow, he actually peed too. Pea soup. So pea soup. Wow.
I think we lost it.
Yeah.
Oh,
By
that's funny.
pea soup, you better call your urologist. If something's wrong.
Something in his diet.
Yeah. He's
So,
drinking some bad stuff.
Yeah, we were talking about before we actually got started. You have some other ventures that you're starting to go into a little bit.
Yeah, I also have the web, which is kind of down right now. They're working on it. www.davidwolfe. That's DAVIDWOLFE.us. What that is I do historical characters
cool.
and for a living, and I go to schools, libraries, museums, and battlefields, and I portray historical figures throughout time. I do two from the 18th century, and that is Ben Franklin and George Washington. Not at the same time. That'd be confusing. Talking about schizo, civil. And then I do two from the 19th century, which is Wild Bill Hickok and Abraham Lincoln. And then I kept thinking, okay, I've got to do somebody from the 20th century. Somebody unique. Yeah, I could do FDR. I could do another political, which is mainly what I do. I wanted to do totally different. And I play music anyhow, Yeah. And I did a Facebook on that, and a lot of people wrote in, and a couple of them wrote in Johnny Cash. And there was another one that said I should do John Lennon because I can do a pretty good impersonation of him, So that's right.
Nice.
Like, I can do Paul McCartney. You could have Paul in the studio one day, and I could do him. Be Tall McCartney. All right? No? Okay. Peace and love. All right. I'm out. Anyhow, so I picked Johnny Cash.
Yeah,
and so
that's
for
cool.
the last,
Very cool.
And I don't. It's not an
Man
over.
in Black.
Yeah, that's right. If he was here right now, it'd be kind of like this. So you're wearing black, I know. Yeah,
The Man in Black.
Yeah, Tony. But I've been studying him for the last month and a half or more. I mean, I've studied him all my life.
Right.
I've loved the guy since I was a kid. One of the first songs I remember hearing by him was "How High Is the Water."
Nice.
And Folsom Prison. That was probably my two first songs about Johnny Cash when I was a kid. Listening to him, so I picked him. And what is tough about doing him though is his voice to get it down, because we don't have voice recordings of these other guys. I said so you can get by. If I'm George Washington, my voice is more like this. Very aristocratic and colonial. Well, to you guys, you're like, yeah, that's a great George Washington,
right?
But that's all you know. You don't know
right.
what his original voice is. With Johnny, everybody knows what Johnny Cash sounds like. He's got that low voice kind of and kind of shaky a little bit when he talks. So, I've been working on the voice for the last month and a half, still working on it. His singing voice and his mannerisms and reading his autobiographies. He's got two of them. A little book plug there.
Maybe a little bit of whiskey and the heroin, you might get the voice down.
Yeah. No, he didn't do heroin, but he did the amphetamines. Yeah. But yeah, I know what.
Well, the show's gone down.
Tony just went off the deep end, like really bad.
Okay. Not Tony, not your vices.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
the Cash family.
I quit that
If they're
stuff.
listening to this, I didn't say that.
Yeah.
Tony did. I
Did
know.
you
I know.
I heard a story.
Yeah,
Johnny
I'm
Cash
waiting.
did heroin. That's what I heard.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
That didn't happen.
No.
Okay. Cleared that up right now.
No.
That's too funny. That's too funny.
But wonderful story. Great guy. Very. Seems like a very humble. Very. Came out of a lot of diversity.
Yeah.
I just love his story, and plus, I wanted somebody that's been there half the 20th century. Well, he was. He was born in 1932.
Yeah.
Lived all the way up to 2003.
Yeah.
So he's seen it all.
Yeah.
And his life story is great too. So if you
Exactly.
like the book, you'll have to come out and see me. So
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go. And of course, that website will be up, and we'll get the link to it. But that'll be back up probably in maybe a few months or so. Something like that.
the website?
The website for the.
The David Wolfe one?
Yes.
Yes.
No, that's coming up here. Like they're just now working
Quickly.
it. It went down. The server
Oh,
went
I
down
gotcha.
like the
I
other day,
gotcha.
and so they're doing their little thing they do, and so hopefully this week it better be up this week.
So, in other
I paid
words, if
for
you're
it,
listening
so-
to this podcast, you need to check it out
Sure,
because it
go
should
ahead.
be up now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because-
And I'll have a link to it.
You'll actually be our first October episode.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
You're kicking off our Halloween month.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm flattered.
and that'll
Wow.
be the second, third. What's the first?
What's the date it's going to air?
Yeah, what is the?
Yeah, we need to put that out there.
Because we
Well-
usually do Monday.
Well, see, that's the thing is when they're hearing this, it'll be then.
Yeah, that's right. So you guys will be up to par. We're still behind.
it's just Inception right now.
Yeah.
You're just confused a little.
I know we'll have to come back to it because you guys we were before the show, folks. We were talking and we were all kind of nerding out about all the things that we love. From everything from wrestling Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
that's a whole
wrestling.
podcast right there unto
Yeah.
itself. That
And fans
I
of the
love.
podcast know we love wrestling.
I do too.
October 2nd, by the way. October 2nd.
there you go.
Is when this will
Yeah.
air for you.
So, like I said, I need to come back and do another podcast with just nerd stuff, from toys to wrestling to.
Well, I don't see
You
why
know.
we can't have you back in the future.
Definitely.
Most definitely.
Oh,
most
good,
definitely.
good.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going to stock the place anyhow. So.
Well, David, we really appreciate you being on tonight.
Hey, thank you.
And let's go ahead and run back the hauntsofowensboro.com.
Right.
It is a great experience, especially if you're looking for something a little unique, a little educational, and you might learn something for sure. And, it's that time of year when it's good to be a little scared.
That's right.
Yeah. And I'm looking at your website here, and by the time this airs, you are doing tours every day of the week throughout the month of October?
Well, you can get me on. I'm glad you asked that. Thanks, Tony, to clarify that. During the weekdays, I have to have at least 6 people or more. Now, Friday and Saturday, I think it's 4 people or less. I'll take you out. But like Monday through Thursday, I have to have at least 6 people to take away from my family and all that stuff.
Sure.
So, but I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you so much, because I would have forgot.
And I tell you, it's totally affordable. It's worth it. It's an experience you need to have at least once in your lifetime.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's very hands-on. We do ghost hunting on the tour. Failed to mention that too. Both tours.
Fantastic.
Yeah, the carriage ride, we still ghost hunt on it. So yeah, it's a lot of. You'll get your money's worth. I promise.
Definitely. hauntsofowensboro.com. Dexter, you check that out. Make sure you do, because it's going to be cool.
Yes.
And just want to cover some quick things real quick. Also like to thank our Patreon supporters. Thank you guys so much for helping us out. We do appreciate that. And you can go to our website, outbreakpodcast.com, and then also you can email us anytime with questions or suggestions for current episodes at outbreakpodcast@gmail.com. And you can always harass me and Tony anytime, because we love hearing from you guys.
And if you're lucky enough to get one of our original business cards, David Anthony's phone number's on there, so feel free to text him at 2:30 in the morning.
I hate you,
That's
Tony.
right. And ask him if his blender's running or something.
I hate you, Tony.
Or tell him about your blender running.
I hate you, Tony. I mean, thanks, Tony. You're the
That was
best.
a ghost saying that. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Tony. Thank you, Mrs. Torrance. Thanks for being on, David. We
Hey, thank you
appreciate
again
it.
for having me. I
It was
appreciate
awesome, man.
that. And again, call me up, folks. PM me, email me, text me, or send a passenger pigeon. Well, they're not around anymore. But yeah, and if you want me as Johnny Cash, book me.
There you go.
Get a hold of these guys. They'll tell you how to get a hold of me.
There you
And
go.
go to my website or whatever, or Facebook me. We'll get you.
hauntsofowensboro.com. Thanks, guys.
Boo.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Escape Pod. If you enjoyed it, please like the episode and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you would like to be a part of future podcasts, then email us at outbreakpodcast@gmail.com. And be sure to visit our website, outbreakpodcast.com, for more episodes, show notes, photos, and other podcasts on the Outbreak Podcasting Network. That's outbreakpodcast.com.